Now it's time for Playoff Stash, presented by Wingstop. We're going to talk about a couple players to stash leading up to the 2025 fantasy playoffs, and I'm going to kick things off with the San Francisco 49er, Field Yates.
Okay, so can you walk me through the criteria here? Because what is it like? Are you stashing Christian McCaffrey?
No,
who are you stashing?
We are choosing a player that is rostered in under 50% of leagues that we think maybe could give a little bit of noise for your fantasy squad in the playoffs if you need them.
Excuse me, 50%.
Not under 50 necessarily, but like we kind of like did that ourselves. Like I kind of like wanted to be in that range. I didn't want to say CMC or someone like that.
Okay.
People that could be available for others to grab on the waiver wire.
All right, so I looked at it right now as a non-obvious starter who's available in way more than 50% of leagues for sure in my case. But I was trying to think of somebody that right now we're not sitting there and saying like Dak Prescott would not be an example of a player that would qualify on this list. So my name is going to probably surprise some people in just a few moments. All right. But I want your name first, Daniel. Give me the
My name is a San Francisco 49er that just returned back last week from injury, and it is Ricky Pearsall. That's right. Yeah, saw his first game action since week 4. Saw 3 targets last week, in case you guys did not remember. And by the way, came back and Brock Purdy was under center, which is nice to be able to come back and to have your quarterback there. Has seen at least 4 receptions in every game to start the season. Not last week because he was just coming back, didn't play a full complement of snaps. And 2 of those 4 games, he had over 100 receiving yards. So if he can get back to being fully healthy, 9th easiest strength of schedule for the rest of the season, so says Mike Clay. With Brock Purdy coming back, Ricky Pearsall, a guy you could add on the end of your bench, and maybe you'd get a nice push for the playoffs from him.
I like it. Yeah. Do you have their schedule? I know they have a week 14 bye. Do you know beyond that what it looks like?
do not.
Okay. Well, they play in week 14 against nobody, but in weeks 15, 16, and 17, if you make the playoffs, Ricky Pearsall could help you. I have a name that I want you guys to take a deep breath.
Okay.
And hear me out. Bear with me here. Again, we are not trying to find some obvious stash name. And if you listened to yesterday's show, you're probably saying to yourself, how on earth could this be your pick?
Oh, boy. Now I'm very good.
Yeah, now I'm ready.
J.J. McCarthy.
Whoa!
Vikings quarterback who, of course...
Have you been watching different football than us?
Yes, I have been, Daniel. No, I haven't. He has been struggling massively right now for the Vikings, completing under 50% of his passes this past Sunday. It's week 12 right now.
Okay.
J.J. McCarthy has any chance to build some confidence. Hopefully it takes place over these next couple of weeks. Look ahead to the schedule, and maybe by the time that we are talking about this mattering, he will not yet have established his own confidence, and we won't have confidence in him. But week 14, the Vikings play home against the Commanders.
Like that.
Week 15, the Vikings play at the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh, like that.
Week 16, the Vikings play at the New York Giants.
This is an easy schedule.
And week 17, Daniel, home to your Detroit Lions.
I wish I hadn't said easy schedule before you said Detroit Lions.
But all 4 of those teams, we're talking about through the prism of quarterbacks facing them in fantasy football. All 4 of those teams have been bottom 8 defenses in terms of allowing fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. And in the case of the Cowboys, Commanders, and the Giants, 3 of the 4 worst.
Yeah.
It's wild. It sounds insane. I have in the war room, I have Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy as my 2 quarterbacks. And there's a part of me that's tempted to drop J.J. for some roster flexibility right now. Caleb's bye is, of course, well behind him, but I might be able to sort of jerry-rig my quarterback position throughout the rest of however long my season lasts, whether that's, 3, 4, 5, hopefully 6 more weeks, by using those 2 together, because it is a very favorable schedule for J.J. McCarthy. Caleb is an example of a quarterback who has a tough schedule. I know this sounds, and I totally acknowledge this, completely blasphemous to say, Patrick Mahomes has a really difficult playoff schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield's got a really difficult schedule coming up. You look at some of the teams, some of the quarterbacks that you're usually saying to yourself, I'm starting them. Some opportunities there that if you are really willing to roll the dice on J.J. McCarthy, and if he builds some confidence over the next few weeks, maybe. I'm not guaranteeing anything here. It's a playoff stash. It's not a playoff starter.
Correct.
Well, it's interesting because since we were kind of loose on the criteria, I was trying to look at it as somebody who maybe if you're trying to push to get into the playoffs and then depending on circumstances might be able to sustain you during the fantasy playoffs.
Okay. All right.
So my pick is Kenneth Gainwell.
All right.
Oh.
And, as you might be aware,
he
had a really big week, 29.5 fantasy points and finishes, running back 5 on the week. Now, he hasn't had that kind of production every single week, but here are some key points. he catches passes.
Yes.
And we've already established that running backs who catch passes are much more valuable.
Yep.
Number 2, Jaylen Warren was injured in last week's game. Had an ankle injury. I went and found the spot where it occurred. I mean, he got his ankle rolled. If you want to see an ankle go 90 degrees sideways, it got rolled up underneath him.
Don't want to.
There was no surprise to me. That happened in the third quarter. And really, after that, it was all Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah.
However, it wasn't only then, because he scored a touchdown on the opening drive, I believe. I'll come back to that. One of his receiving touchdowns came from Mason Rudolph, who stepped in for Aaron Rodgers, who also has a wrist injury that we don't know exactly what is going to happen with that. They're concerned about a fracture in his wrist. Obviously, he's getting evaluations, et cetera. We know Aaron Rodgers wants to play if healthy. But my point is, should it be Mason Rudolph stepping in? Clearly, Mason Rudolph was happy to throw Kenneth Gainwell a pass that got him a touchdown. The other receiving touchdown was on the opening drive. So, again, that was with Aaron Rodgers. And it means that also his utilization does not only come up when Jaylen Warren's out.
And based on Mike Clay's strength of schedule for the rest of the season. Sorry, Stefania, keep going. Didn't mean to.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's the 7th easiest for running backs.
Yes.
And so here's who they're coming up with next week is the Bears. Week 12 is the Bears. Week 13, the Bills. Week 14, the Ravens. Week 15, the Dolphins. Week 16, the Lions. And it's not until week 17 that it's the Browns, which is a little bit more difficult. But look, he's had modest fantasy production in most weeks, other than there was one other week where he had 31.4 fantasy points. That was week 4 against the Vikings. And Jaylen Warren was out for that game because he had a knee injury then. The question is, number one, we don't know if Warren's going to be able to play. Remember that the game that Warren missed before, they were in Dublin. And he was warming up. Do you remember? We all thought Jaylen Warren was maybe going to play because he traveled. And I told you the Steelers have this very specific criteria. If there's a player on the bubble and they go through these warm-ups, that they have to hit these marks. And if they're not meeting the metrics, it's pretty much a clear they're going to drop out. So we might be hearing that Jaylen Warren's back in practice and he might still not make it for this week. But even if he's present, I do think that Kenneth Gainwell presents you with somebody who is an option that I think could be productive down the stretch.
I like it. Given the way that they utilize that, and someone we may talk about in the waiver wire section as well in just a little bit. If you guys needed to vote, I'm curious, YouTube chat, which one of the playoff stashes would you guys vote for the rest of the season? Let's throw up a poll right now. Of course, you got a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver. Yeah, exactly. We're basically giving you a full roster. But if you had to choose one, I'd love to throw it up in chat and see what you guys would like to go home with.
Yeah, and these are stashes. They're not like you're necessarily plugging them in.
Of course, that's the point. Yeah, we're trying to find guys that maybe will give
you, maybe going to use them, but might not need to.
Yep.
Righty.